Welcome everyone to today's stream. Topic is preparing like a pro. I will show you 2 games from last year's American Cup and talk about my preparation and all the work that went through into it. Okay, so the game that I'm going to show you, there's 2 games. I played against Anna Zatonskih. She's a player I have faced many times before. We have played in many US championships together. We have been teammates. She's a very strong player. She's won the US Women's Championship 4 times. This was over 2,500. Like ranked number 7 in the world for women at some point, so very good player. And we have many games from US Women's Championship. We also played one of these death matches back in the day when they were just starting out with them, so I just have a lot of games against her. So last year we played in this tournament called American Cup. We're going to be playing in this again this year, and she was my first round opponent. So this was a knockout tournament. It was a mini match of 2 games, and if the match ended in tie, then there were tie breaks. So she was my first round opponent, and I lost the first game with the black pieces. So in the second game I was in a must-win situation. So playing against someone I've known for such a long time, it's a bit tricky because we do have a lot of games against each other, and I know her as a player, she knows me as a player, so it's just interesting to take so many things into account, which I guess for a lot of players this doesn't happen, because maybe when you're playing and you're preparing, you don't know your opponent so well, but there's a lot of practical aspects to think about. So first I had to think about what she will play against me. So after e4, I always play e4. I mean, sometimes, actually, in one US championships, I played one knight f3 against her for the very first time in my life. So maybe she was expecting that too, but she knew that I was in a must-win situation, so I figured she would play an opening where she would feel comfortable in, and also an opening that was quieter and calmer, so doesn't really enter any complications and tries to keep control of the game. And that's how she likes to play chess in general. She doesn't really seek out complications on her own in the opening. So I predicted that she would play the Petrov. Hi everyone, whoever's joining. We're talking about my games against Anna Zatonskih from last year's American Cup. So this was a double elimination, so I wouldn't get out of the tournament. So you have like 2 lives. Usually elimination tournament is you lose, you get out, you're out of the tournament. But I would go into the elimination bracket where I would get 1 more chance. But of course, then you have 1 life left, right? Basically, so you do want to keep advancing and staying in the winners bracket. So the American Cup, which is also coming up, so the double elimination tournament, so it's 8 players. One plays 8, so the highest lower player plays the lowest rated player. And so it's a 2-game match. If it's a tie, then there's tie breaks with faster time controls. And the winner continues in the winner's bracket, and the loser goes to the elimination bracket. And if you lose twice, you're out of the tournament. And you still, even if you lose 1 match, there's an opportunity to win the tournament, which is nice, because you can just win the rest of your matches. But there's also a bonus prize if you win the tournament outright without ever losing a match. So I lost the first game in some Nimzo that she played against me. So I really wanted to win this game, at least go into tie breaks. And against Anna, I also have played some tie breaks in the US Championship for the title. So I predicted that she would play this, and then I had to decide what to do against her and what to do against the Petrov, which we know is not a very easy thing to do. And also thinking about hi Pumpkin Cat, and also thinking about how she would prepare against me and what lines she would choose, because she is trying to avoid complications, and she just also doesn't want to be out prepared. And Anna as a player, she's kind of like me. She's a bit of a time travel addict. Well, when we play each other, we just both of us spend so much time in the opening. So I thought maybe that could also give me an advantage if I can out-prepare her. So I played d4. bishop d3. So all of this align. So in the Petrov, of course, there's the knight e5 move, the standard move, and d4 is the main other option. So I decided to go d4, and this is a line I have played before. Bishop d3 and knight e5. So I have played this line before, and I don't know actually what she was expecting me to play, but when I was looking at the lines, whatever lines I was finding, there were some dynamic aspects in the position, and I thought that would give me some fighting chances. So she played knight d7, and recently, actually today, someone showed it to me about this opening explorer on Lichess. So I don't know if I can fit it on the stream screen. No, it's not part of it. Maybe I can. One second, guys. I'm trying to make life good for everyone. Yeah. Just one sec. I'm trying. I will do this. So if I do this, yeah, I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna cover my face just for 1 second. So when talking about preparation and like different levels of preparation, so someone showed this to me today, that on Lichess, if you go to Opening Explorer, so first it shows you Master Games, but it's also possible to go to Lichess Games. Oh. Okay. Okay, so, and this is something I would recommend for players who are lower rated, because when you're preparing, I would not suggest for you to prepare by looking at like Magnus's or Hikaru's games, because those games are very high level. So you can actually, what you can do, in a Lichess database, you can go to, so when you do this button, Opening Explorer and Table Base, and then you can go to Lichess database. So this will show games played by Lichess players, and then you can select what kind of average rating you're looking for and time control. So I think this can be useful. So if whatever bracket you're in, you can go up like 200 points, 400 points, and look at the games of those players, so or even games of players of your own level. So you can see what is likely to happen in your own games, and as opposed to what is likely to happen in Magnus Carlsen's game. So I think this is a good way to prepare for players of lower rated players, and then you can also choose the time control of those players. So bullet, blitz, you probably want to avoid those, and maybe rapid, or okay, blitz can also be okay. So you want to avoid this bullet and ultra bullet games, and you can select what level you're looking for, and then all set, and all those games come up. And then you get a kind of, maybe when you get an opening course and you're studying, or you're looking top level games, and then you see certain games, certain moves, and then you play, those games never come up, and then you see like certain moves always come up. So this is a way for you to see which games, what moves to expect, and what is more likely for you. Okay, so let me transition out of this. We can go back to here. Wow. I did click the board.
The board so that click the board again. Yeah, there you go. Okay. And then do a alt.
Yeah.
There you go. And then it transitions.
Okay. Okay. Resting first. Good to see you too. Okay, so let's go back to this game. So I can show you what I had prepared and what she played. So in this position, she played knight d7, a very standard move. So bishop d6 is also a move. But let me get out of here. So after bishop d7, castle, castle. And it's also possible to transition to what we got in the game. But there's also this additional move of c4. And, whenever you're facing your opponent's preparation, it's always unpleasant because, you know, you're walking into the work that they've done. Someone on my stream said, like, they feel like whenever they walk into preparation, they feel like it's unfair because, like, their opponent gets stuff for free, but, you know, they have prepared and they've done the work. So in the game, she played knight d7, and I played knight c3. So pretty standard move in this position, but this led her, and part of my preparation was to try to get her into a position maybe she doesn't know really well and make her spend some time. What do I think about a move like bishop e5? Oh, like taking this knight? Yeah, taking this knight is not something we want to do here. So this is like an interesting position. Oh, you mean taking the knight? No, I mean, we're happy to get the bishop pair here because this pawn is not hanging. The knight on e4 hangs, so we're quite happy about getting this bishop. So this is a funny looking position because it's so symmetrical, and it's kind of like a exchange French position. But this knight being on e5 and e4 like changes things a lot. So I can show you what's going on. So knight d7 and knight c3, and the point is to put some pressure in the central knight and try to change the pawn structure. So there's several things. So now in this position, she actually has to make a decision, and she has to decide what she's going to do, because pawn on d5 hangs potentially, right? This pawn on e4 hangs. So there are several ways for black to react to this in the games. So here she took 5 minutes and she took on c3, but there are other options here too. So one option is to take on e5 and then play. So one option is to just, now the knight is actually hanging here, right? I want to take twice, and to go knight c5. But knight c5 runs into this knight d5 move, so this is quite tactical and not something, you know, when people think Petrov, not something they think, because taking is impossible. We'll win a queen. So now she has to give up a pawn. And if we look at this line with the computer, it says like it's okay, black has compensation because of the bishop pair, this pawn on e5, and black will trade queens. Bishop will go to f5, rooks will come to the center, so like a lot of compensation. It's not a clean pawn that white wins the pawn and just wins the game. But again, making this kind of a decision over the board is not so easy, especially in a game where you're trying to like avoid any kind of conflict and trying to play as safe as possible. Okay. Yeah, and I think the practical aspect of it all, and this, I was actually just talking to someone about this, like when preparing and when, you know, maybe you have an opening file or you look through a game or your coach teaches you something and they explain it to you, like everything looks very logical, or if you're analyzing with an engine, all the engine moves look logical, but when you're playing it, the feeling is very different because you have to make decisions, and especially if you're surprised over the board, you have to make decisions, and you know, you're on your own, and like these decisions aren't as easy when you don't have the guidance of a book or a computer. Okay, so another option for her was, and this is not something I thought she would play unless she knew it really well, because it's not really in her style, is to play bishop to b4, castle, and take this pawn. So taking on e5 is not really an option because of rook e1, so like castles, and now we have a tactic of taking and winning this bishop back. And this position has been played before. Let's see if I can check the database. Yeah, Anand Wankao, Dubov. So pretty on a high level this position has been played. So now so I wasn't expecting to win the game out of the opening. You know, I'm playing a very formidable player. So even if I get slightly better position, it's still going to be a fight. But what I was looking for is some kind of a dynamic position with chances because at this point I'm willing to take some risks, because it doesn't really matter if I'm losing 1.5 to half or 2 to 0, because what's the difference? I'm still getting eliminated from a bracket. So I'm willing to take risks, and she's not really willing to take risks. But what happens here for me is the structure now changes, and now we enter a more dynamic position with the opposite colored bishops. And because it's a middle game, opposite colored bishops give me a chance to attack. Opposite colored bishops are great for attacking, because if I'm able to play like queen g3, bishop h6, or queen g3, bishop g5 to f6, this bishop is very useless, cannot defend the dark squares. So then now there's a lot of dynamics in the position, and something I would be very happy with. So instead, after castle, she decides to not after castle, after knight c3, she takes, and bishop d6. So also, again, it's possible for her to take this, but again, the pawn structure changes, and not something I'm opposed to, because of castle, f4, f5, f6, if I can get it in, and some dynamics in the position. So she played bishop d6. So I have played this line before, and her husband actually is also a Petrov player. And when I was studying these lines, I was also looking at his games and kind of basing my preparation on that too, because, you know, obviously her husband is a very strong grandmaster, like 2650. So obviously he would help her prepare, especially such an important game, or at least they probably look at some lines together. So a line that I've played before is with knight d7, bishop d7, castle. And then there is this bishop h5 move. So this is a double attack. So black has to play f5. In the game, I believe my opponent blundered the pawn. So the bishop wants to go to g5, but now the queen will go to e8 and g6. So the move in this position is rook e1, threatening bishop g5, a pretty nasty threat, and reaching this position. And I believe rook e3 is the move here. And I've looked at this position before. I've analyzed it, trying to understand it. So white does have this long-term compromise structure. Black can like fix it with b5, but at the same time, black has a very weak king in the long term, and it's possible that this king can come under attack. So already in this position, rook h3 can become a threat. If g6, then it just weakens the dark squares a bit more. So again, some dynamics in the position, but I thought you probably have seen this game, because this game was in the database. And it's also possible, if I go back and think about the Petrov, it's also possible that she thought that I would go for something and castle in queenside in these lines. So bishop out, queen d2, castle queenside. So it's very possible that she thought I would go for something like this, if I think about this from her point of view. So castle. So in this position, I castled. So again, taking on d5 twice is impossible because of the pin. So instead she castles. Now my pawn hangs, so now I defend it. And here she spent like 16 minutes, and she goes, she plays c5. So black's options are kind of limited here, because a move like rook e8 doesn't quite work out. I can just take on h7 here, and this can run into some nasty attacks, so not something she wants to allow. So like I thought c5 was a pretty logical move, and move that is quite easy to play, but maybe she wasn't very familiar with this position. Sometimes when you walk into prep, you know, you just start seeing ghosts because you just feel so uncomfortable. And my threat in this position is to play queen f3, go after this pawn, develop my pieces. And she has to think about how she's going to finish her development. So maybe she was also considering of taking something like this. But again, I don't mind this kind of a dynamic. I can try to play f4 here. Also bishop a3 might be a move here. So again, going for this opposite color bishop position is not something I mind. And taking this is a possibility, but I don't think, actually it's interesting. Yeah, I don't think something she wants to do. And again, she can come under very strong attack here. So she plays c5. So this all has been played before. Queen f3, and again, she spent a lot of time here and she made a mistake, which is understandable to me because at this point, so I'm playing very fast, which puts a lot of pressure on her because, you know, she knows I'm prepared and she's probably like not feeling very confident. And I think it because of the tournament structure situation, back of her mind is like, don't take risks, keep things calm, like don't make complicate things. You're playing for a draw, and you know, when you're playing for a result, it's a bit cliche, but it does make things a bit complicated. Going for the opposite color bishops in middle game is a new idea. No, yeah, I know like this is what opposite color bishops are known for draw and endgame, but as soon as you start adding pieces, like the nature of the position completely changes. If you have opposite color bishop position and then you add two pairs of rooks, it just completely changes the position. And with more pieces on the board, especially if you're creating an attack, it just can be completely devastating. Because if I like if something like this happens, right? If I somehow my bishop gets to bishop g5, bishop f6, this c8 bishop is just completely useless. So this is a dynamic that she had to think about, and here I'm playing very quickly, so I go queen f3, and now her d5 pawn is under attack. So the only move for her was to play c4 to keep the position level, and something that's been played before. But I understand how c4 is a difficult move to play over the board, because it's just so committal. When you play a move like c4, then this d5 pawn becomes forever weak, and there is no taking back this c4 move. It fixes the pawn structure. So again, like committal moves when you're in this mindset where you want to make a draw are not, you know, like top of your list. So she plays a move that makes more sense, and she spends another 8 minutes. Now bishop g5, but now bishop g5, but now again her center starts to hang, and now she has to think about, once again, I want to take, and again she has to think about what how to defend this pawn, and not such an easy thing to do, because also now my rook can go to d1 and something like c4, and this pin is actually can be quite nasty for her, because how does she get out of this pin? Yeah, when you have opposite color bishops, if you're attacking, you play on the squares of the color of your bishop, because your opponent's bishop cannot defend them. So bishop g5, c4, now bishop f5, and bishop e7. So I have my notes from after I analyzed this game. So yeah, so in this position, I was just thinking about bishop c8, which is kind of silly because I'm exchanging her useless bishop for my good one. So I think I have other options. I think taking on f6, knight g4 was an option. Rook b1 is also an option, and just like letting her take on f5. And there's also the other side of getting your prep in, which is something that has happened to me. Like this problem that I don't know how much of a problem it is, maybe it's just me, but when I've had games where I got a lot of prep in, and I remember 2019 US Championship, my first round game, a lot of prep, like 20 minutes prep. I got a winning position. It was like +2 with the engine, up on time, anything I could have wanted, and then I started to misplay. And then the position just slipped out of my hands, and then it was no longer winning. But because I was just, well, first of all, I got very emotional because, you know, I've done all this work, I come with preparation, and I have out-prepared her. It was almost like, how dare she not lose this game? And I ended up losing the game because I just couldn't come to terms with the fact that just because my prep was better, just because, you know, I had a good position out of the opening, doesn't mean that I just have to win the game easily. It's still possible to make mistakes later. Yeah, so in this game too, I also got everything that I wanted. I knew my position is good, and now I'm like, okay, so how am I gonna try to improve my position even more? So when I started kind of, at some point I did misplay the position a little bit, and I feel like the advantage slipped out of my hand. I started getting like very emotional and very frustrated because I was just like very upset with myself because especially against a player like Anna, that I know if I'd prepare her, like I know how she's going to feel, and I can get a huge time advantage. So and then I started spending more time too, and our time became more equal. Like I started getting very frustrated. How do you evaluate the edginess or the sharpness of a position even if the well, you look through the engine moves, and then you see if like when the engine gives you an evaluation of moves, like you can see like several moves, right? So if there's only one line that's +2 and the second line is like -7, then you have to find different kind of you have to find like only moves. There are different levels of +1 or +2. If there's a +2 that requires you to find like 7 only moves in a row, that's like a completely different than when an engine gives you one move that's +2, another move that's 1.7, another one that's like 1.3, then you're like, okay, no matter what I play, my advantage is there. Maybe it's a matter of like how big advantage I have in a position. I'm not sure that the light square bishop is a bit better than the dark square one. Maybe when I was talking about the French positions yesterday. Okay, so I took on c8 and I took on f6. So I think this position, when I was playing it, actually here I'm still quite happy, because this bishop f6 move is also an interesting decision for me, because we don't often see a trade of a knight for a bishop for a knight. Usually it's the other way around. But when I look at this position, again, she played this c4 move that maybe she didn't want to play. But now all I see is this d5 weakness, right? And my bishop cannot attack it, but my knight can. Her knight can defend it, but her bishop can't. So once I trade this, I was like, oh, once I come and start attacking this pawn, like how is she going to defend it? So her best hope is to trade her bishop for the knight. So I go knight g4. So during the game, I remember I was thinking rook a b1. And it's very interesting when you're considering what you're thinking during the game, and then sometimes during the game everything is just like so dramatic, everything is just like so complicated, and you can make a decision, and then after the game you just look at it with like completely different point, and you're like, oh my god, like why didn't I play this? This is just so simple. Of course, like, so I was thinking of this line, queen a5 takes, now she's threatening mate, g3 takes this pawn too, and during the game I was like, okay, like queen g6, maybe it's not so simple. I don't remember what the engine was giving me. I think, well, this engine gives me like a huge plus. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't so sure during the game about all this. And like I've been talking about like the psychological aspect of her thinking, like she wants to make a draw, she doesn't want to make things complicated, but from my point of view, like I have to win this game, right? For her, if she loses, at least we go to tiebreaks. For me, I'm playing for one result. For her, one result is great. 2 result, at least she gets another chance. So like for me, I also have to think about, okay, if I trade too many pieces, maybe position becomes a bit too drawish. Like I still want to keep some tension in the game. So I played knight g4, queen d7. And here I remember during the game, I was considering rook b5, and I spent so much time on this, and I was just like, oh my. It was funny because I remember very distinctly during the game, I was like, okay, there's no rook e1, because then f6 had in the end, and then I was like, oh my gosh, she's just gonna take on b5, and it's just game over. The tournament that I'm talking about is American Cup, which is a double elimination. So she was my first round opponent. I lost the first game. So the second game I was in a must-win situation not to lose the match. So this is why there is so much that goes into this kind of decisions here. Because if it was any kind of a tournament game, then you make decisions, but this must-win situation is kind of tough. Okay, so I played g3. I'll start doubling my rooks. So I mean, I'm still quite happy here, but now she's just holding the position, and I've also compromised my pawn structure in the long term, so it's not like like I got everything I wanted in the world with nothing to give, and gave up nothing. And I wasn't sure how to keep my advantage going, and I think at this point, like, I was no longer really ahead on the clock, so this was also getting a bit frustrating for me. So now we just shuffle a bit. So yeah, she would love to trade this. So what I missed here, I missed something critical. So here, knight f6. Yeah, I missed something simple here because I remember calculating this and I thought there's g6, but I missed that here takes and then there's knight e7. Yeah, which is very unfortunate. Wait, I also have a line with, oh yeah. Another thing I didn't see, which is rook e6. What? Yeah, like all kinds of lines that I missed here. I've analyzed this after with the engine. And queen g4, rook e2. This is the line takes. Yeah, and rook e7, just cutting this communication between the queen and the bishop. I didn't see it during the game. How to calm your nerves during the game? Yeah, I mean, that's tough to do. You just, I think sometimes what I do is just, especially in this tournament, I had to do it several times, including in this game, because this game just got a bit out of control. So let me see what happened in the game. So this game was actually very long, so I don't think there's a point for us to look through all of it. And yeah, eventually I feel like I kind of let a lot of my advantage slip, and then we entered this position. And one thing I think I did really well in this game is just keep games going for a long time. And you know, the longer you keep the game going, it's a bit double-edged, because both it gives you a lot of chances to win, but also gives you chances to make mistakes. So if you ever find yourself in a very bad position, it's a very good idea to, like, if you can kind of stop the damage and don't make any more huge mistakes where it ends the game, but instead just keep the game going, make moves, you know, force your opponent to make decisions that will give you a lot of chances. So I thought, okay, at least this position, I kind of let a lot of my advantage go, but now she has this e6 backwards pawn, and at least, you know, we can play for a very long time. And I actually did this twice in this tournament when I was again in a must-win situation against the player, and she just found a way to trade every piece, and I was again getting so frustrated. I was like, how is she finding, she's like hunting all my pieces. And then at the end, I think it was like queen, either two rooks versus queen two rooks or queen rook against queen rook, and I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna make moves. At some point, like mentally, I was ready to make it a draw, but I was like, no. And just kept making moves, kept going. At some point, she blundered. Again, this nerves of, you know, wanting a result so bad. Yeah, so at this point, I'm just playing against this, this structure. And the good thing for me is I have two ideas. So this e6 pawn is so weak, and also if I go h5, I can also weaken her king. So I will just play through the game, because we're far beyond of what we're talking about here. And so we get to this position, I'm trying to keep pieces on. And then at some point I have to start making some commitments, because one weakness is not enough. So we're just shuffling back and forth, and then at some point, yeah, she made a mistake here. She took this pawn, but now my king ran to safety. This moment I remember in the game was funny, because I could have taken a rook, but then I calculated checkmate. Instead of taking a rook, I played queen d6, and I'm checkmating her, which I was quite happy about. Yeah, so this was very up and down game. So it started off really well for me. You know, I had my prep. I got my prep in. I was up on time. I had a good position. Everything you can ever dream of to get out of the opening. But then, you know, I had to start playing moves on my own, which is the difficult part, and the advantage slipped away from me. But I think my position was always good. So it was always a two-result game. I was either going to win or it was going to be a draw. I was never in danger in this game, which is a very nice feeling to have, that, you know, your opponent never really had a chance to win the game. And so like what when I was preparing against this game, mainly, you know, thinking about the kind of positions my opponent will want, the kind of position she doesn't like, because so she's a player I know very well, and this is a very high stakes game. Of course, high stakes for both of us. So I think choosing this line worked out really well for me. And so she lost this game, and then we went into tiebreak. So tiebreaks, I want to say it was game 25 plus 5. It was not a very long. We're playing rapid, but so there were like two kinds of rapid. I think it was game 25 plus 5 and then game 10. Oh, actually, this might have been game 10 because this was after this round. Okay, this was a year ago, so I remember that clearly. So I think then we go to tiebreaks because one of us has to get knocked out and go into elimination bracket. So because of the pairings, I'm white again. So I was like, okay, great. I'm white again. If she plays the Petrov, I'm just going to repeat this line and let her figure out what to do. And also, we played this game. There isn't a lot of time to prepare. So I was like, what is she going to find against this line? That she's probably going to play something else. And since I had won this game, now like the feeling is different, right? It's always like when you go into a tiebreak, we come from different mindsets because she won the first game and she had the chance to clinch and she lost, whereas I lost the first game and I won a must-win game. So they gave me a huge boost because I'm coming off a victory and, you know, like winning this clutch game. So that's a big confidence boost for me, whereas for her, it's like the opposite. It's like, oh, like I messed up in this really important game and now I have to go play a tiebreak. So now we repeat this line. So she decided to repeat and I'm like, great. So we play the same line again, knight d7, knight c3, takes. So this time we're both playing fast. c4, bishop f5. So now this time, in the last game she played knight f6. This game she goes c4 immediately, and now she takes and bishop here. And now we don't enter those opposite color bishops position anymore because now she's forcing a trade of the bishop. And of course this is a very convenient trade for her, as it happened in the game, even though I didn't have to take on c8, because her bishop hasn't moved and my bishop has already moved a few times, so it's very convenient for her to develop a bishop and immediately trade it. So here I took and bishop e3. And here my mindset is also different because so I'm playing with the white pieces, so a win would be really nice because the next game is black. So I think in this two-round matches, it's kind of nice to have black in the first round because no matter what happens, at least you can try to win the next game with white. So I was like, okay, it'd be really nice if I win. If not, then playing black, so maybe I can try to fight for a draw. Or, okay, anything can happen, right? Because this was our second game in the day and we had one more game to play. So it was like playing 3 games in one day. It's pretty tough. And if everything ends in a draw, then we just either we keep playing or it was already an Armageddon. So she played rook e8. Takes and rook d1, and like she improved on what she did before, but I think again she found you know, you can improve on your opening, but you cannot like change your playing style or your preferences so quickly. I mean, it goes for her and of course it goes for me too. It's not like I prepare a line and I become a different type of player. I still have things that I like in chess in a position that I gravitate towards. So even in this position, I thought, okay, there's some dynamics. So what she did here with rook a5, this was a very good way for her to play because this rook here is very annoying. And the thing is, if we enter any kind of endgame, or like if I lose this a2 pawn, it's very dangerous because this pawn just runs. Whereas if she loses this d5 pawn, like she loses this backwards pawn, that's kind of useless. So it's, you know, this is a pretty good trade-off for her. But I thought there's still a lot of dynamics in the position because if I take on d5, I get the d file, and because of this pawn majority, I still have some attacking chances. So I thought maybe I can still attack. So I went h3, natural move, like kind of a nothing move, creating a loft for my king, and rook d4. So rook d4 is I think this was an inaccurate move actually because it runs into f6, but okay, this is a rapid game. But my idea is both to go rook d1 and try to get this d file and also swing the rook to this side and try to create an attack. So she went to queen e6 and rook e2. And here is a bit of a trap because f6 is not a move. Because I have this intermezzo f7. Instead, she plays h6 and queen e3. Oh yeah, queen e3 here was a mistake because now she has f6 here. So she's happy to trade pieces because any kind of endgame, I think black has very good chances because takes on a2 and I have to deal with this distant pass pawn on a7 and this is like super annoying for me. So not something we want to do. But she didn't play f6, she played rook a2 and I just, parted ways with this pawn. I was like, you can have this pawn, and now I'm starting to push on this side. Now I want to play queen f3, f5, and if I get all these moves in, then her king can actually become quite uncomfortable. So she brought this back, and queen f3. So now I just want to play f5. If I pass the move, if I play f5, this is actually becoming very uncomfortable. So the queen goes somewhere. So rook g4 is a possible, f6 immediately, and here she might actually just be getting mated. So instead she plays, excuse me, she plays f5, and now I switch gears. So now I want to take her d pawn, but what has happened with f5, now I have a pass pawn, and I have a protected pass pawn. So at least I have achieved something. And yeah, I understand that she has this distant pass pawn, but we still have some pieces on the board and also this d6 square. So the rook can go on d6, kick this queen away. So I still feel like I have attacking chances here. So she went to rook d8. I took because of the pin. So I would be very happy about this kind of trade. So she checked. So now I have to block because she protected the rook. So rook c5. Now my pawn is hanging, so now I go after her pawn. And I take on d5. This is actually a very big moment in the game, and there are several big moments in the game, and the key is to catch those moments. And so at this point, the way that I played, like my pawn is already hanging, and it's hanging with a tempo. So if she takes on c3, then kicks away my queen. This is knight. She did have rook c3, but she didn't want to give up this pawn. This would have been very dangerous to give up this kingside pawn. Because again, now I'm gonna move, go f5, f6, d5 is hanging. I think this is very dangerous for her. Like this f5 pawn is actually quite important. So she decides to hang on to this pawn, but next move she wants to take on c3. And I took on d5, and during the game I was actually quite concerned, or I wasn't at least sure what happens if she goes for this endgame. Because okay, I have won a pawn, but I have this double pawns, so she can play rook c8, try to take this pawns, and she has this distant pass pawn, and she can stop my pawn very quickly. So I wonder what this engine thinks. Yeah. So during the game, I was like, I don't know if she goes for this. I don't know if this is a winnable endgame for me. But instead, and like from her point of view, I also see this like why this is a difficult decision to make, especially because we just played a game where I was on the better side of it the whole game, right? And she was basically suffering for like 3-4 hours. It was just suffering for her, where eventually she blundered and lost. So, we're both tired, but like I'm on the good side of all of this. Good side of the tired, good side of the emotional excitement. So I just have of the positives of this match so far. So I can see why she didn't want to take on d5, because now she has to play another endgame where she's, fighting for a draw. So instead she took on c3, which I think is very logical, and she probably saw this because I didn't, and she took on c2, and this was a very unpleasant moment for me because I think I blundered this, but I was like, okay. So I see my notes. So I said I blundered this, but I was ahead on the clock here, and in a rapid game this makes a huge difference. And the whole point is, if I take, she takes on d5. So instead I played rook d6. So of course she trades, and queen e4, which is kind of annoying for me because she's tickling my pawn, which means my queen cannot be active. But even in this position, I thought it's so unclear because her king feels weaker than mine. I can go rook d7. My passed pawn is more annoying than hers. And I think the evaluation of this position on the computer is just pretty level. But obviously, when someone asks me how do you evaluate the edginess of the position when you give an evaluation, so okay, if the computer says it's equal here, but you know, there's attacking aspects, there's this pawn might be queening, so there's a lot of things for her to deal with. But of course I'm also down a pawn, so I might just lose down a pawn. So I check and I grab my pawn back. Rook c7, now at least her rook is free, and I think her king is actually safer on h7, so this is a nicer configuration for her. So I come back with my queen, and now I start pushing my pawn. Yeah, so queen c6, this was some kind of a computer analysis. But to me, like, this looks so scary because this king is just so much weaker. It only has these two pawns. Okay, you play move like g6, this king is just so weak, and then you go back, rook e4, I try to like check you on the back rank. Just, I don't know, I think if anyone's going to lose this, most likely black, because at worst, white can trade into some kind of a rook endgame, and it's the pawns are equal. But for black, it's possible this king just gets in trouble. But I believe around here somewhere she makes a huge mistake. Yeah, and then now she tries to chase my queen away. So she starts like harassing my queen. And here she just completely collapsed. And given everything that happened in this last game and this game, I can't totally understand this. Because now this pawn is also hanging, and like if she goes rook c5, I will just take it. So then she played queen e2, trying to take this pawn. I think she was thinking, you know, you go here, I take your pawn, but of course it just hangs the f5 pawn, and here I think she flagged, if I remember correctly. But okay, after rook b7, there is no salvaging this position. So this preparation actually basically won 2 games for me. So the first game, not what I was expecting, because like I knew the line where she played correctly in this game. Oh, thank you. Resting Forest, I was quite happy about this game too. Like in this line when, where are we? So I knew like c4 is the move, so when she doesn't play c4, I just know my position is good. Right, that's the good thing about preparation. There's you playing a forcing line and your opponent plays something else, you're like, okay, they did something wrong, so I know my position is good. So I got the good position. I didn't really handle it in the best way. It still became a fight. She still had some chances to, you know, make a draw, even though I was like always on the good side of this game, that game I believe. And here she improved, but I think because of the previous game and because I did spend a lot of time preparing these lines, and I got quite lucky because she improvised on what she played in the first game, but she didn't play completely different. Because if she played completely different, then both of us would be out of preparation. But because by playing this line, she still played something that I had prepared for. Because I just assumed that, you know, it's possible she will go for this line because it is the best line. And if not, then great. And like and because she misplayed it in the first game and then improved on the first game by playing the correct line, I was still in my element, I was still playing fast, and I knew the idea as well, so I felt quite comfortable. So this was quite a good preparation, even though, you know, not like this position leads to anything good, just leads to some kind of a dynamic game. But when we're preparing and we're thinking of which line to choose, it's not very common to get a position where you just, first of all, winning outright. Not common at a certain level, doesn't really happen unless you get lucky, or even getting a big advantage. It's just a matter of finding a position you're comfortable with and also makes your opponent uncomfortable. Of course, it's always possible to play some kind of a risky line and say like, what are the chances? My opponent has looked at this line in the past, I don't know, 2 years or whatever, 5 months. So that's always the possibility, but you know, like the two things, finding a position you're comfortable in and making your opponent uncomfortable. So those are, when preparing for against someone specific, those are like the main things to keep in mind. So there's a good chance that I might be playing again this year. So maybe she will see this video so we can avoid this line altogether. I don't think we're in the same, I don't know the pairings yet, but I don't think we're going to be in the same bracket at all until maybe we can meet in the finals. But yeah, so this was, I have some examples of preparation that didn't go my way at all, where I walked into preparation. I can be quite stubborn, but this one I am quite happy about. So we don't have a stream tomorrow, but on Saturday there is a simul, so hopefully you guys will stop by. All right, thanks everyone, and I'll see you on Saturday.